Robert's work several years ago while putting together my application for the school, which was in the midst of COVID. So I was browsing the online portfolio of current photography students, and I was immediately struck by Robert's images, which in one way or another, I believe, kind of shout at you. And so they spoke to the questions that have lingered and the reality I've noticed. I was very young. So my mother, the photographer of the family, she slowly became quadriplegic over time. And so since then, I've often wondered how our physical abilities influence the way that we make. And so I've seen plenty of dedicated street photographers who never leave their house without a camera, but I've always wondered, would they still be excited by photography if they could no longer use their legs to walk the streets or use their arms to lift the camera to their eye? Maybe they would find a way to adapt their bodies to the technology, but for some reason, in Robert's work, I see the inverse. It feels like the camera, all the lights, the space, and all the people involved, everything has adapted to him and for him, existing in the here and now to adorn body, and to adorn and memorialize body and form. And so one of the most striking aspects of Robert's work is his ability to orchestrate what many of us may find too demanding a task, which is bringing multiple strangers together into these intimate and raw, provocative compositions that almost follow a system of touch. Robert not only manages to make these elaborate scenes happen, but he also inserts himself into these scenes. And while he was in this program, like he's about to do now, Robert would present these photographs that include his own nude body to an audience filled with artists, students, teachers, and maybe even people who disagree with his work or lifestyle. Robert's bravery not only lies in making each scene happen, but also in his sincere exposition of indulgences, desire, and pain that at once blur the line between the poignant and the pornographic. Robert's collaborations go beyond the traditional photographer-subject relationship, as he oftentimes works with assistants to make his pictures. And so he's not only a performer in the photographs, but a director of them as well, as he collaborates with more or less cast and crew. In Robert's world, this directorial position is not a choice, but a necessity of his everyday life. And so that Robert would extend this direction as part of his practice showcases this endurance of both voice and body as he considers caregiving from a practical level to a creative one. In his work, the boundaries of the bodies expand, kind of like how the camera is an extension of the eye, or a tripod, an extension of the legs. Bodies melt and harden and blend into one another, evoking this language of classical form while utilizing the harshness of flesh. The stars of these photographs and each of their gestures are mutually seamed, stitched, and shaped such that the body reaches beyond the skin. So I truly believe there is no better medium to suit Robert's work than photography. Despite all the images available to us on the internet every single day, Robert makes visible that which is rarely, if ever, seen. But more than that, the camera is unforgiving. Everything is described in sharp detail, and because of that, we are put in direct confrontation with what we see. And the pictures are arresting because they don't let you look away. Not for a moment does Robert let his life, his fantasies, his routines, and everyday experiences be invisible. Instead, he is the center of this world, and I would like to thank him for sharing it with us.
Yeah, my name is Robert Andy Coombs, and I kind of designed my presentation about just my journey as a photographer. And I think it's really helpful to see like where the artist comes from and like how they realize things. I know that helps a lot for me when I'm, and especially when I want to like, I'm very generous when it comes to my life, and yeah, I just like, I like talking about myself. So I will try and keep this under an hour. I do tend to make a lot of work, which you will see. So like any other, oh yeah. came to the realization of my sexuality. Well, I always kind of knew that I was gay, but always was kind of ambiguous about it. Just blurring the lines. I don't necessarily think I was doing a good job in hindsight, but I was really playing, when I started photographing in college, I really started documenting my body, my queerness, and just kind of like my relationship to everything that was going on at the time. Just, you know, an angsty gay art student. And so, like, I've always had this, like, really good body image, and kind of loved the way I looked in the mirror. And, like, a lot of, you know, early 2000s gays, we all wanted to be models at that point. We wanted to, you know, be, like, Prada thing. So I've always been, like, a really active person. I was a swimmer in high school, I did Taekwondo, and so my body kind of allowed me to do all of those things, and also kind of in turn my body looked a certain way. Really nice. And so I really was interested in beauty and fashion, and I think that kind of reflects in my early work. But also, I tend to look back at my archive, which I think is important, because I'm a lot more, I'm kinder on myself now, and I'm like, oh, well, I mean, you know, I was going through transitions in my life, figuring out who I was, so, I mean, the work that I did was important, because so much of an artist's life is you have to make certain images before you can make others. And kind of what I realized as a professor is that, like, whatever the idea you have, just do it, whether anyone sees it or not. You know, because I think these days, you know, everyone's trying to get it right, trying to, you know, get every aspect conceptually, artistically, visually. They want it perfect, but sometimes they're not. They don't turn out that way. Like, I have so many failed photo shoots, and you know, to where I'm just not. I don't like it, and so now, like, that. I also kind of back then was just like, well, I'm not always going to look this way. It's just, there was always some kind of realization that, you know, I wanted to document my body, and, you know, I like the way it looks, so why not? Why not just do it? So this is my final project for my third year at Kendall College of Art Design. I was a gymnast at the time. I was part of a club sport affiliated with my college, and I've always loved gymnastics. I was always, you know, flipping and doing that sort of stuff. So I was doing a photo shoot, and I always worked with my friends. So I always kind of had an entourage, especially like being in front of the camera. Like I needed someone to essentially push the shutter. So I really don't work any different than I do now. So this image was taken on the trampoline that I broke my neck on exactly a week before my accident. So the following Friday, I broke my neck and became a quadriplegic. So, go to the next. So my time in like rehab and the ICU, I quickly realized we had independent living classes, so I basically relearned learned how to take care of my body, how it worked, how it functioned, and one of the topics was disability and sexuality. I quickly found out in you know, being in Michigan, which is very heteronormative, and especially back in 2009, that my medical professionals were ill-equipped to talk about, gay sex and gay disabled sex. So I kind of put that on back burner for a while. I spent a year at home with my parents, and then that next fall in 2010, I went back to school. So that's a pretty quick turnaround, I think, when it comes to having a catastrophic disability like myself. Thankfully I have, an amazing support system when it comes to my family. My mom was a physical therapy assistant, so she taught me everything she knew, and it was just a brilliant moment. And then also, like, returning back to Kendall and Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I was living, I had a really good, support system when it came to my friends. So while I was finishing up my undergrad at Kendall, when I moved out on my own, became independent again, I submersed myself into the dating scene, and also just dove into online forums and Googling wheelchair sex and guys masturbating in wheelchairs, and just on XTube and wherever I could find imagery of disability and sex, I was on it. It was few and far between, so I kind of started realizing that I was literally sitting on a gold mine of content and imaging. So one of my first kind of dives into the realm of disability and sexuality is this iteration. I had made some disabled friends throughout, my undergrad, and I photographed it in a really romantic studio way. And like I said, I think these were images that I needed to make before I could make other ones. So this was dipping my toe back into my, body image and my new relationship with my body, and how I love my body for the way it is. And also breaking my neck kind of, I no longer had to adhere to a certain body image because I couldn't change my body anymore. So it was a very freeing experience. Next slide. So as you can see, I'm starting to incorporate the different augmentations I have to my body, showing my suprapubic catheter. You can see my swollen feet from edema, and also just kind of playing around with positioning in my chair. I was kind of, I don't ever sit like that except when it is to perform for an image, and why not? I just wanted to feel sexy in the moment, and I feel like I do. Next. And so really focusing on some of these kind of things that aren't necessarily thought of as beautiful. He has one false eye, his trach scar, his other the bandage on his knee. I'm using all of these things in order to I don't know, kind of find the beauty in it. Next. And then after I graduated in 2013, I really didn't photograph for about 5 years. I really needed to find myself who I was, if I was ever going to be an artist again. And I had one of my mentors. I worked for him from 2014 to 2015. It was a contract job affiliated with Kendall, and kind of his start of a disability arts collective. So there is a Biennale in Liverpool called Dada Fest. It's disabled art, deaf art. And yeah, every 2 years, it's like one of the biggest disability arts festivals that there is. And so he wanted to bring the work to Grand Rapids. So I kind of documented that and also created a fashion show for this festival that we were going to have in Grand Rapids. So I am so thankful for him. I am so thankful for that contract job. I like literally just submersed myself into disability culture and where, you know, some of my humor comes from. I also get that from my mom. She was a woman working in the VA, and, you know, the disabled vets, you know, were, you know, sexist and all this stuff, and, you know, she just would brush it off. She's like, all right, well, you can stare at my tits if you do your exercises. You know. So my mom just like, I growing up with viewing disability and kind of having her in this gateway, I have a really different view on disability than I think a lot of people did. Like, honestly, I didn't care that I was in a wheelchair. I was just happy to be alive and glad to be the fuck out of the hospital because you can't sleep there. So when I turned 30, I was like, okay, I gotta do something. So I was like, I'm gonna get my master's in photography. I think it's time. I really want to pursue myself as an artist. And so I applied to Yale once before, didn't get in. And I think a lot of that had to do with me. I was kind of making excuses and like not making the work. And you know, if anyone knows anything, like you have to be like actively making the work to show that you're serious about what you want to do. So the second time I applied for Yale, I didn't take no for an answer this time. So I started my series CripFag, which is the majority of the work you're going to see tonight. And I really didn't know where to start, so I was just like, I'm gonna photograph myself naked in my backyard, just to like kick it off. And so like that's where a few of these first images come. And I think they're some of the most like poignant images I had. Like this literally was one of the first images I ever took. And it was kind of a candid because I was just like testing lighting at this point, and I love my stank face and just kind of like looking at my friend who was helping me, and it was just like, yeah, I mean, that's what I look like. And so one of my favorite things about this images is just like the intimacy of like my floppy wrists and like where you can see where my wristlets are, like my tan lines, all of my trach scar, my tattoos, my G-tube scar, and also like, once again, like the involvement of my catheter and the lines that, are indented into my skin from my clothing. Go to the next. And I have a love-hate relationship with Michigan. It's very isolating sometimes. Trying to find yourself in the career community anywhere. I mean, it's hard to do. And also trying to make work around disability and sexuality when there aren't a lot of people who are interested in you sexually. So a lot of my beginning work was very isolated and just kind of showing that isolation and loneliness and how I crave touch, like that's one of my love languages. And so, once again, kind of showing, the areas of my body that don't get seen very often. And another thing that helped me about my body image was photographing myself so I knew what my body looked like. And so much of having a disability like mine is pressure sores. So I constantly have to like photograph my body, making sure like, if I do have a pressure sore or red marks, I have to document them, which I think I'm going to come out with another book of all my gross, disgusting, like, breakdown of my skin and the healing process. So, but yeah, I have to document these things. And once again, like you see my neck scar that you don't get to see very often. The budding of hemifer, my hemorrhoid, with a little bit of powder on it. The bandage where I had a pressure sore from my leg strap that holds my catheter in place. And then once again, my suprapubic catheter and my leg bag. Next. And once again, just like kind of showing my body like in real time. I was on the left. I was having a bad night. I went out with some friends, and like they went to a different part of the bar that I couldn't go to, so I was left by myself. So like it was just infuriating because I'm just, they just left me, and I was bawling. I just was drunk, bawling, like having a meltdown, and just went home, and I had my friend just photograph me. And then also, once again, like showing the bloody catheter and just kind of destigmatizing these things that are like, people can, say they're gross and whatnot, but like this helps me like do what I need to do. And there is a whole community of fetishes when it comes to those with disabilities. There's medical fetishes, there's people that are called devotees who are just obsessed with people with disabilities. And so I kind of play with that fetish as well. Next. And then I did end up finding like a few friends in Michigan that I was able to kind of explore the more romantic and intimacy, interabled relationships, and just once again playing with that notion of like stereotype, like wheelchair bound. Like I'm not bound in my wheelchair. I'm extremely comfortable in it, and I use it no different than me wearing contacts. Like if I didn't have contacts, I wouldn't be able to see. How many of you like wear contacts or like you have a disability? It's just it's not as thought of that way, because we made it so normal because so many people have it. So it's humans love to create access points, and so like elevators, it's like, well, we invented elevators so that we didn't have to walk upstairs, right? Or even cars so that we didn't have to ride horses. Like we're constantly inventing these things, and so I just kind of want to like talk about making these access points like more equal to everyone. Next. And then like also incorporating some art history. So like here I thought it was just with the Madonna, or what is it? That one. See, I don't. But I was just like, I have people. I love when people sit on my chair with me. Like, I like reassuring people that they're not going to break me, that I'm pretty durable, and later on you will see like more sexual images. I probably should have warned beforehand, but yeah, you will see nudity and penetration. So if that is something you're not into, you're more than welcome to leave. I won't be mad. So I crave this intimacy because so much of my relationship with other people is like very transactional and touching. So it's a lot of just washing me up, getting me ready, and it's not actually the touch I want or crave. It's more out of necessity. Next. And so now this is this is actually one of my first photo shoots at Yale. The image on the left is something that I've always wanted to do, was kind of like have someone caressing my scar, and just kind of like that's something so intimate and so like beautiful. And my doctor did a great job. He had a very good line that he drew. And I think my skin is like Wolverine because it heals so much. Because some people's skin, like, it doesn't heal us and stuff. But yeah, you see my tortilla skin with all the freckles and the blackhead. When you see it in real life, it's like, because it's like 40 by 53. So like, you see all the blackheads in my neck, and you get to see all like the gritty detail, and I love kind of like incorporating that less Photoshop, more realistic view of skin, the way it looks. Next. And so yeah, now these images are like when I'm at Yale, so it was also really freeing to be on the East Coast and in a more liberal area and finding people that saw my image and kind of understood where I was going with my artwork. And also Yale, being a Yale photo student helped a lot. I will not lie. So yeah, just kind of incorporating these same things, and also like once again seeing me out of my chair and like in a leisure, in a leisure kind of pose, and just kind of showing like, yeah, my body wants to be held, it can be held. Don't let these apparatuses like get in your way. Next. And then this is like, now I'm really starting to get into like the meat of what I wanted to make. So playing with different positions that my chair can do during sex. I like to make it like fun and interesting. So like, look at all the like fun things you can do, And so like, my chair tilts back, and I tend to like put my arm through the guy's legs because it's easier to like fillet when I do that. So yeah. And also with this image, when you see it in large print, there is like a bead of sweat going down from his armpit. It's just like chef's kiss. Next. And so yeah, like I'm really starting to find my community like here in New Haven, and also like reaching out to a lot of different queer artists in New York. And kind of once again playing with the way I can move my body and also like where I have access to, where I have access to sex, where my chair will allow me go. This was actually in someone's basement, so I chained my wheelchair to a tree in Brooklyn outside of a brownstone, and then they carried me down in there. So yeah, that was over World Pride in NYC in 2019, right before the pandemic. And also like I thrive with collaborating with people because it allows me to see my disability in a new light. So they're like, why aren't you photographing like this in between like transient? Because I wanted to basically create a chair out of men, able-bodied men. So yeah, they're like, why don't you just keep photographing? Like stop thinking about like always having to set things up, and just like allow for more experimentation, and that really helps me a lot. Next. And then once again, like going back to access. So this was at New York City Pride, and I would say a lot of people in the disability community that are queer, we tend to feel invisible. Like no one will see us, and like we really have to kind of assert ourselves into spaces that where it seems like we're not wanted. So, this was, I'd probably never do New York City Pride again, just because the sheer amount of people that just don't pay attention, and also like just trying to find a space where I can fit and watch without people just like completely ignoring me so they have a better view of the parade. So this was a really amazing image that I got to take, and I don't think that woman on the right was actually looking at me, but she has like this stained face, like with what they were doing here, so it's just like, that worked. But yeah, next. And then I also like loved to find spaces here on the campus of Yale, just because it's so grand and it's so beautiful and romantic, and I wanted to have my like cuddle by the fireplace moment, and just kind of have see these really intimate and romantic images of disability. And not that you can tell in this picture that I'm disabled, but yeah. And just like, yeah, having that embrace. Next. And then going back on like access of where I can have sex. So the image on the left is in the trophy room at Yale, and the image on the right is in the stacks at the Sterling Library. So like I always, I love playing with fantasy and kind of like my dreams and my own like sexual interests. So I really wanted to kind of have my own like Sex in the Stacks moment, just because that's always, I went to a small art school, so that never really, our library was like a room, so I got to do it here, and the light is so beautiful in the stacks here, and it was really interesting because he, the guy on the right in the stacks, he went to MIT, was getting his PhD in chemistry, and like, he was wild. he had like an alt Twitter that I didn't know before, and so like he was doing it all over Boston, I will say. And then also like in the left, I will say that I love objectifying men, especially as a disabled man. Like I objectify the physical male body. And so the image on the left, I love, one of my favorite things is to eat abs. And yeah. So when I find models, it's usually like people that want to be in the image with me and kind of like explore what it's like not only to be photographed by someone like me, but also like be intimate with a person with a disability. So and so that's really where like my like kind of where my thought process goes. Like, so I usually, like, if I reach out to people and they're interested, or people reach out to me, then I kind of like ask them what they're into sexually. So when we find common ground, then that's where I'll give them kind of ideas, or if we come up with an idea. So yeah, that was probably one of my favorite shoots to do, just because like it was me and my this model and also my photo assistant at the time, and both the model and my photo assistant, they were both black, and also being in the trophy room at Yale. I don't know if any of you have been there before, but it's a lot of white people up on the wall. So it was just kind of a fun moment to share, like that moment, with different types of minorities. Because also like not a lot of them were disabled, or if any of them. So and there's this really interesting painting on the wall of like a white male with a gray body and all these men like surrounding him, like looking at his body. So it's just, it's really weird. If you ever get a chance, go there and look at that. Because Yale also did the like nude body of like, they took pictures of everybody's body for a while. So like Yale undergrad students. So nice. And then also like, you know, playing with fetish and also like, I think, you know, a lot of people kind of infantilize me because I'm disabled and I use a wheelchair. And so like, with this image, I just wanted to let people know, like, I'm not one to be messed with. I am a very dominant human being, and I will let you know. So, and then also, like, I was playing around with having them, like, kneeling at me and standing, but I think the juxtaposition of, like, me, like, seated and having them stand at attention is really interesting, and that kind of tension. Because normally, like, you know, when you give a presentation or, you know, you kind of want to have like those power stands to like, because there's different power dynamics when it comes to being seated and standing. So I really just wanted to like, even though I don't, like, I can't physically dominate someone, like I will mentally like just tear you down if it's consensual, as far as that, so. Next. And then also while I was here, I started branching out about like, you know, so I get so many comments on some of my equipment, like, oh, is that a sex swing? I'm like, no, but it could be. So I was like, yeah, I could hook an anal hook to my Hoyer lift, which gets me in and out of bed, you know, in my wheelchair, and next, and hook someone up to it as a use of like, once again, bondage and fetish and kind of asserting my dominance and next. And then going more into fetish and like, you know, like, this model was kind of like telling me what he was into and very submissive and he's like, you know, loved water sports and I'm like, can I piss on you? For an image, he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I think it's really interesting, like, how would I piss on someone? And one thing about me, I have a very large catheter bag. So I drank a ton of water for this photo shoot and just unleashed on him in my shower. And I also love like the color of his like poorly bleached piss yellow hair, like just, you know, up against like like looking exactly like my piss that's coming out. So as you can tell, I was well hydrated that day. Next. And then also, like, kind of going back, and at this point, I've been through a few critiques, and I was so concerned about like pumping out images and just like making art, not really like relishing the time with you know, my friends and some of the people that are in my images. So at this point, I'm like really present, I would say, in the photo shoot, and like the sessions that we would do, and so just really, just like allowing my assistant to kind of take some liberty when it came to what to capture, but I'm also, you know, kind of reviewing images at the same time, and so just kind of like going back and forth and. Yeah, just really like enjoying being with these people and just like this amazing moment that we get to capture and just like yeah, just like having those memories is really amazing. Next. And then I also like to incorporate care into my work and foreplay. So I think it's really important that, because like I would say a lot of like cis gay men, we're so concerned about like getting our rocks off, and like half the time we don't even know someone's name, and so like I also like there's a large amount of care that you know, in order to be intimate with me, you're gonna have to do these things like undress me and redress me after. So like incorporating undressing and redressing into foreplay and post-play, you know, cleaning me up after, because there's bodily fluids all over me. So yeah, just kind of like incorporating care into this intimacy and like using it not as something where someone has to do work, right? Because a lot of people like online would be like, oh, so I have to do all the work. And I'm like, well, if you think about it that way, like, you know, with that attitude. And so like, it can be really fun and romantic and like sexy. So I actually, if you look in this image, like I made my friend grow out his pubes all summer. Because he's a very hairy dude, so I like made him grow them out and like, you know, kind of made them tuft over. So yeah, and just kind of like using these mundane moments is like, just, it doesn't have to be. Next. And so like, you know, washing my hair and just like finding the beauty within like, you know, these mundane things. Nice. 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 Care is sexy. Because when you think about it, like two able-bodied people caring for each other, no one thinks anything about it. But when it comes to an interabled relationship, so many people focus on the physical caregiver, whereas like, yeah, like it is physically taxing. I will not deny that whatsoever, but I don't get a break. I don't get a break from being disabled. This is my life all day, every day. And so like, yeah, no one, I would say society tends to neglect like what we as the disabled person have a role in. So I'm mentally taking care of everyone around me, making sure they're okay, making sure they have enough spoons, you know. And so like you know, if my caregiver's exhausted, I'm not gonna make them do like a 5-step routine for my, you know, nightly face care routine. You know, I'm just gonna be like, let's just go to bed then, you know. But also, you know, there are times where it's just like, you know, I need to take care of myself as well, and like, you know, I deserve to have things done the way that I like them done as well. So, next. And then just, yeah, fun, enjoy, and just kind of like complete, like, have you ever seen someone in a wheelchair like getting a lap dance or a pole dance, or, you know, in a seedy motel, like hiring a stripper to like oogle and google? Next. And then also just kind of playing with perspective as well. So like, one of my best friends, we very intimate, and you know, we were just kind of playing around one day, and he's like, oh my god, this would be a beautiful picture. So I'm like, grab my camera. So nice. And then I now that I'm a little bit like I have a great body of work of like sex. I'm kind of like, ushering in, a new realm of, who I am as an artist. And so this is LAD. You're all thankful for the huge buttons in the big elevator at Green Hall. He was my service dog for almost 8 years. He had passed away just shy of our like 8-year anniversary. So, but what? I know, right? He honestly, I think he's the one that got me into Yale because I was like, wow. Like this dog is just like perfect. And honestly, he made everyone's day. Like if you were having a bad day, like I'm like absolutely pet my dog. Like and so like, he would just everyone would just like come over and just get their dog time. And so like incorporating him into my work was just kind of a no-brainer. And just like we shared so much time together and just yeah, it was really hard to see him get disabled. So yeah. Next. Next. Fun fact, I still float. I'm pretty sure I have osteoporosis, so as long as I'm face up, I'm good. Next. And so once I kind of explored a little bit of so like I said, I make a lot of work. I started doing street photography when I was here at Yale. And kind of did an iteration of it. Being a seated person, there are a lot of dicks and butts in my face, which I'm not complaining about whatsoever. It just allows me to look up close a lot better. So I started exploring more of this, kind of traversing pride events and kind of inserting myself into these spaces where it's both fun and alienating at the same time. Keep going. Nice. And so like, love going to Muscle Beach in Miami where I was living after I graduated. And so like, they're all there to perform and show off. So yeah, it was just once again kind of objectifying that male body and what I don't know what I like to see. Next. 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 Juicy. Next. Next. And so I'm literally like this guy here. I'm like traversing, like swimming through the sea of dicks and butts, and like also trying to find like my peers who are also queer and disabled, and just like claustrophobic, but also like fun.
How are you using the camera with this work?
So I mount a Hasselblad, a film, an ELM. So the one that went to the moon, because it automatically advances the film for me and resets the shutter. I did my research. And then I use a shutter release, and it's a viewfinder, a waist level viewfinder so I can look. And then I like push the button with my tongue. So, and then I usually set it at a certain focal length. So like maybe I'm using like a 110 mil. So it gets me up close, and then I will probably from me to Danico, which is like a good distance that I'll focus it at. So nice. Nice. Next. I love the scars on the back of his caps. And see, like, how many of you would notice that? Unless you know about disability. So, nice. And then this is at the Pines in Fire Island. I had the Buffalo artist residency. So that was fun to make a lot of work there too. Next. And so I also love working Polaroid. I can just like shut my brain off from all the technical stuff and just like allow myself to just create. And I highly suggest that photographers do that, whether it's just like a film point shoot or just something like quick and dirty that you don't have to think about, because it allows me to just like shut my brain off and just create, just whatever it is, and it's a work of art of its own. So I started using Polaroid without knowing of its queer context. And so just kind of like documenting my life, I would write bad checks and buy Polaroid film from the CVS and hope it didn't bounce. So, poor college student. Next. And so just like, this is what I didn't realize at the time. I was documenting my queer life, my queer, ascension, I guess, like my realization. Next. Next. All right, and now this is where I get to Yale, and I kind of start reliving my Polaroid experience, because they started making film again. And so I learned about like Tom Bianchi and his work when it came to like Fire on Pines, and how Polaroid allowed the queer community to document without having the fear of being outed. So like if film got into the wrong hands, like, oh, there goes your life. So like, and I love the like grittiness and like dirtiness, raunchiness of a Polaroid. Like I want, people to touch them. I want the DNA. I want that, stuff on it. I want that patina. And also like, just like, you always think of like Polaroids back in the day, like taking dirty pictures and hiding them in a book, So I like using this medium because of that, and it's just like one of a kind. Like it's an instant artifact, whereas like you could scan it and reprint it, but it's still not the same. And so this is like, once again, I'm like taking Polaroids as I'm doing these photo shoots, just to like shut my brain off for a minute and then like see what I can create, and then sometimes I'll make a digital image if it tickles my fancy. Next. And so this is like, I love documenting parties at Yale here. Next. Some familiar faces. Those are Steiner's boobs after her reduction. And then Teju Cole and Al and Justine, yeah. Next. Next. And then just a lot of dicks and butts. Next.